things went very fast. I mean, we started the company back in 1990 with Bernard Liotto. The two of us at the time were employees of Oracle France. I joined Oracle France just 2 years before that, and Bernard 3 years before. I mean, we're reasonably new employees. And the whole thing started when my largest customer, a company called EDF, the big French electricity utility, which was and still is the largest electricity company in the world, bought a product from me called EasySQL, which was a product supposed to allow end users to run ad hoc queries and reports on Oracle databases. It was actually the first sale I ever completed when joining Oracle, and it was actually turning into a disaster because my customer was actually the HR division of the R&D department of EDF. EDF had a lot of engineers working on a lot of new technologies. They had something like 5,000 engineers, and they still have actually today. A lot of engineers working on all kinds of new technologies in the energy sector. And what these people wanted to do, these HR employees, they wanted to extract a lot of data on this population of engineers in terms of, how old they were, how much they were paying them, what was their degree, what kind of degree they had, and so forth. And so I sold them EasySQL because it was the recommendation by a pre-sales engineer who told me in front of a need like that, we have this wonderful tool, which unfortunately was everything but easy, which required a lot of knowledge, understanding of SQL, understanding of the database structure, and this whole thing was turning into a nightmare. This division of EDF was very influential. EDF had decided to standardize on Oracle at the time, so it was a big deal for me to make these people happy, and they were in fact very unhappy. And so I had two options. The first option was to refund the software, and the other option was to try and please them. And I tried, at least it was my plan A, and plan B was to refund. Plan A was to try and please them and find essentially a solution to their problem. And I went to Bernard Liotto, who was the head of marketing of Oracle France at the time. I told him, Bernard, can you help me? I've got this problem now in my hands. And he told me, oh, why don't you talk to this independent developer called Jean-Michel Campeau, who's designed a tool that is supposed to solve exactly the problem you're trying to solve for EDF. And so I went to this gentleman who was an independent developer working in an attic in Le Marais in Paris, building software, and who tried to build something that was in fact solving this issue. And I introduced Jean-Michel to EDF, and EDF said, hey, this is exactly what we need. And so we tried with Bernard to champion the idea of having Oracle France endorse the product, but Oracle France told us, no way, we're just going to sell software coming from Redwood Shores, forget about it. And so we decided, Bernard and I, to build a company around that, and that was Business Objects. So it all started in June 1990. We offered Jean-Michel to join us, the developer, but he didn't want to. I mean, he wanted to get royalties, so we offered him royalties on his product, and we ended up building a team, and essentially starting, with the two of us initially in a small office and smelly office actually. In the Paris suburbs. We hired a first engineer whose name is Alex Daillon, who's now the president product of Salesforce in the Bay Area, who's had a great career in the meantime with us first, and then obviously much later on a great career with Salesforce. And we started that company, and it grew very fast. Actually, I mean, we doubled revenue every year. We started the UK and the US operations a year after launching the French operations. So we launched the French operations in June 1990. We started the US and the UK in September of 1991. And in 1994, we took the company public on NASDAQ in September 1994, 4.5 years after inception, in what was, at least that year, the best IPO on NASDAQ based on the valuation the first day we were listed. So a great adventure, and then the rest is history. The company kept on growing and ended up being acquired by SAP in 2007. Now it's part of SAP. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of good customers, a lot of big companies, a lot of big customers in the US in particular. I can recall the largest deal we ever closed in the US with TI, Texas Instruments.
360 client.
Yeah, 360 clients.
So still a business client.
Excellent, good to see that. Many years after, and remember TI coming to us, buying a first license for 8 users, and a few months down the road, we're used to people calling us and telling us, oh, we need, now we need 16 users, or we need 32 users, and TI came back to us and told us, a few months later, oh, we need the price for 10,000 users. And so we're like, wow, are you serious?
Prices?
Yeah, there was no price list for that, and so we obviously offered a price for that, and TI became our biggest customer worldwide almost instantly, and so lots of good memories like that. So yeah, that's essentially it.
Hey, thanks, Denis. So you are saying we are late because we're already 10 years.
No, but no. What I can say is that what I like about GB and Smith is that you guys have an approach which is quite similar to ours. What made Business Objects really successful was this semantic layer, where we try to hide the complexity of the database structure and of the SQL language with the universes and the objects and so forth. And we actually got a patent on that, and the patent was enforced actually later on. It's a pretty robust patent. What you're doing is very similar. I mean, you've got this layer, with the matrix, which is pretty compelling, and also helping people do their job more effectively, hiding complexity, helping manage complexity. And I find this, very, very similar and very compelling, and that's the reason why I decided to invest and join the board.
Thanks for that. So, Nathan, any question? Or Bruno?
I don't know that I've got a question so much as it's pretty awesome to hear. I worked for Business Objects back in 2004, 5, before we were bought by SAP. And so it's, it's very cool to be a part of the 360Suite story, as well as, just having roots in seeing customers do similar type of things, from then with Business Objects till now with 360Suite on Business Objects. So, Bruno, you have any questions?
Yeah, I want to say it's just amazing because I think for 2 years we've been going all around the United States at different user groups, meeting customers and prospects. And it's just amazing that after so many years, actually today, Business Objects is, people talk about it with passion. They love it. And it's something amazing. And I was curious to ask you basically how do you see analytics, or how do you see analytics in general in the future? Do you see more cloud? How do you see things?
Yeah, the cloud is unavoidable these days, and so I think everything is moving to the cloud, and I think that both Business Objects and GB and Smith are actually moving in that direction. And I think analytics, when we started, analytics was, the word did not exist. I mean, when we started, we were talking about info center, and we positioned Business Objects initially as a relational info center, because info center was an old IBM mainframe term coined, 15 or 20 years before, and so we were, the modern info center. And now we're talking about analytics, and it has become a major market segment. At the time, remember, the only solution was QBE, to access, corporate databases. It was query by example. It meant, learning, a complex technical language. I mean, in just 25 years, things have changed dramatically. I think the next step in the analytics area will probably be revolving around AI and natural language. One thing I remember very clearly is that the approach we took with our layer was really to hide a high degree of complexity. But these days, and at the time already, there were options in the works like natural language, based options. But computers were not powerful enough to recognize natural language. And our bet was that 25 years down the road, it would probably exist. But that at least initially, we should choose a much simpler approach based on our notion of objects. And nowadays, indeed, natural language does exist, and I think analytics will be now a lot more based on this, a lot more based on AI. I mean, I think all these technologies now are much more powerful than they were many years ago, and I think this is the avenue for the new form of analytics. It should be based on natural language and AI. I mean, you have so much power now available. It should revolve around that.
Interesting. And what I always say is, when I started 20 years ago with Business Object and BI was down the road. Nobody was taking care about this, but nowadays the world almost is driven by BI and BI outputs.